Hello race fans and welcome to the streets of Singapore at the Marina Bay Street Circuit here for the 2023 Singapore Grand Prix. We're here for some hot, humid conditions and let's see what our drivers can muster in these tough conditions. Here's your practice report for the Singapore Grand Prix. And Keita Watanabe usually goes well around this track, P11 for him. However, Matsushita down the order, but still keeping the relative pace of his teammate in practice 2, despite rain at the end of the session. Many drivers set up dry lap times, but Watanabe was well over his teammate. Toyota had to investigate some engine concerns and therefore did not run in practice 3. The setup that they'll be running is pretty high downforce in comparison to the circuit. While Toyota doesn't bring any updates to this race, the amount of reliability upgrades they've had to make means they fall behind Alpine and Williams fall behind AlphaTauri. However, some big news is that the regulations for 2024 seem to be changing, so the teams will have to look forward to that. Around the final two corners of this Marina Bay Street Circuit, cross the line, P3. Watanabe, a little wide on the curb, crosses the line, is an improvement on his previous time. Where's that going to put him? And that's 10th overall. So the Toyota car doesn't seem to really suit this track from our initial running in Q1. Matsushita makes it through, but George Russell as well makes it into Q2. Through turns 22 and 23, across the line, and that's P3 on the medium tires for Watanabe. That's a very impressive lap time. Through the final two corners, on the softs is Watanabe. He hasn't set his lap time yet. As he crosses the line, let's see what he can do. Here we go, Watanabe barreling towards the line on the soft, 6/10 up. And that's P8 overall. So Watanabe, unfortunately, will be starting the race on the softs in comparison to Valtteri Bottas and Carlos Sainz on the mediums. So the Spaniard doing really well, but Matsushita out of the session. Here we go, barreling towards the line. Here we go, turn 1, 2, and oh, Watanabe spins it around on used soft tires. And that's surely going to be some damage. He finally could put a lap in. The new soft tires working well. Where's that going to place him? And that places him 7th overall, but Charles Leclerc, after a DNF in the previous race, 2 DNFs in the last 3 races, Charles Leclerc takes pole position around the streets of Singapore. A very impressive lap time from the Ferrari driver, and Keita Watanabe, though, down in P7. Here we go. This is a bit of an endurance race for our drivers, and as close to one as we'll get here at the Singapore Street Circuit, where the hot, humid conditions of the night temperature, although being relatively cool than it is during the day, it is still going to be a grueling race for our drivers to get through the tight, twisty, technical sections that comprises the Marina Bay Street Circuit here in Singapore. And here's your track map. As you can see, through the city we go, plenty of 90-degree turns, and who can't forget, of course, the third sector, where it is very easy in the tight walls underneath the grandstand to lose the front wing. Here's your starting grid. Charles Leclerc, what can he do as he takes pole position, his first of the season here at Singapore? What can he do with Max Verstappen, one of our championship protagonists, lining up alongside him? What can Valtteri Bottas do to extend his championship lead? Or can Watanabe come out of nowhere to steal an impressive result, as he usually tends to do around the streets of Singapore? Here's your starting grid, though, for the Singapore Grand Prix. It's Charles Leclerc on pole position and Max Verstappen, P2 overall. What can the Red Bull driver do around these tight, twisty streets? Then it's Valtteri Bottas, our championship leader, 3rd, Hamilton 4th, Carlos Sainz 5th, and Lando Norris in P6, Keita Watanabe 7th, Daniel Ricciardo in P8, Antonio Giovinazzi 9th, and Sergio Perez down the order of a grid penalty in 10th. Then it's Matsushita 11th, Russell 12th, Vettel 13th, and Nicolas Latifi up into 14th place, Stroll 15th, Tsunoda 17th, Fernando 16th, Fernando Alonso down the grid in 17th place on an engine penalty, and Marino Sato in 18th place for Alfa Romeo. Nikita Mazepin 19th, Esteban Ocon also on grid penalties in 20th, Gasly have grid penalties as well, and Zhou Guanyu completes our grid order tonight. Let's see what our drivers can do. 5 red lights. Leclerc will be looking for a good start off pole position. What can he do? It's lights out, and it's away we go. And Max Verstappen gets a great launch off the line, and he's side by side. Actually, he's ahead of Leclerc into turn 1. And Kato Watanabe very, very close to one of the McLarens of Daniel Ricciardo. He was a little off track, though, to try and see if he can make it 3 wide through turn 3, heading to turn 4, but Giovinazzi and Norris get ahead of him, and now he has to defend against Daniel Ricciardo. He dives on the inside of turn 5, seeing if he can get the move done on the AlphaTauri, but Giovinazzi gets the better exit through the turn and down this DRS straight, and of course Watanabe now has to turn offense into defense as he almost rear ends the back of the AlphaTauri, but he manages to keep it ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. Let's look back at the race start. Kato Watanabe gets a decent start off the line. He's contesting Lando Norris, but Giovinazzi, or no, sorry, Pierre Gasly out of no, is that Giovinazzi? That is Giovinazzi. Apologies, folks. Giovinazzi just out of nowhere gets an amazing launch off the line. We're used to Giovinazzi starts off the line, and he pulls off an impressive one. And another person who puts off an impressive start is Max Verstappen. That was an impressive launch. He passes Leclerc before the first corner, and that is a crucial edge. Leclerc gets very bogged down in the initial phase of the launch, but that's all Max Verstappen needed to pass the Ferrari driver, who now has a Red Bull rear wing. Through the final 2 corners we go. Very wide for Watanabe. His tires already struggling for grip. Daniel Ricciardo, though, better exit for the McLaren driver. Let's see what he can do. Down the inside, Ricciardo may be retiring from Formula 1, but he's still got the moves and the edge to try and contest Watanabe. Here we go. Entering the hairpin of turn 13, and Watanabe goes very wide. He almost goes right into the wall, and then leaves an opening for Daniel Ricciardo. We're trying to go into turn 14 now. DRS deployed for the McLaren driver, while Watanabe's deploying tons of battery down the inside into turn 14, and that is an audacious move from the Toyota driver, who holds the place over the McLaren. Lap 5, and into the pits goes Watanabe, and he kind of crosses the pit exit. So is that going to be a penalty for him? You're not exactly allowed to do that. However, the FIA might excuse him for the fact that there wasn't any drivers behind him. So any sort of dangerous driving that could have happened is not exactly his fault in terms, well, I mean, it is his fault. But oh, there's a front wing change! So, was there a little knock on the front wing that occurred in the previous laps? Perhaps it is possible to do so. Singapore is very, very tight. And a few of those dive bombs that Watanabe tried to pull off in the initial phases was very close to the wall. In fact, he actually got very close to the rear diffuser of Antonio Giovinazzi in the AlphaTauri. So was there a contact that caused damage there? We don't know, but Watanabe finds himself at the very back of the grid, but on fresh medium tires. He's looking very electric on those mediums. In fact, the Toyota seems to be suiting those mediums in race pace a lot better. As some drivers ahead pit, can Watanabe at least get by Fernando Alonso? He does. Through turn 1 we go, and takes a place. Closing in on Zhou Guanyu. Here we go, through turn 17, into turn 18 now. He's very close to that Haas car. It's a very slow Haas. We're even like down the inside into turn 18. And that is not a place where you see overtakes very often. An impressive move. Let's look at the replay. You can see Zhou leaves this gap wide open. Technically, Zhou is on the racing line, but Watanabe. Through turn 23 we go, and Tsunoda, Gasly pit. So Watanabe is going to inherit their places. Closing in on Daniel Ricciardo now. So he's made up tons of positions. Ricciardo may have gotten the overcut technically, but Watanabe pit down the inside of turn 23. Was there contact through turn 22? We don't know, but that was an audacious move. Look at the replay. You see Ricciardo hits the line normally, and a little bit of contact. I mean, I think that was a racing incident. I don't think Watanabe was really intending to force Ricciardo completely off the track, though. But good reflexes. Closing in on Nikita Mazepin now with DRS and ERS deployed. Is he going to blow a dive? He is down the inside through turn 7. And he goes a little wide. Mazepin's going to try to fight him back, but Watanabe holds the position. And that was a very, very late move from the Toyota. Closing in on Antonio Giovinazzi now. Is he going to pull the same dive? No, he thinks better of it. Through turn 7, heading towards turn 8 we go. Watanabe is going to go down the inside now of the AlphaTauri, and he gets the position over the Italian, and that was some good moves. He's closing in on Esteban Ocon now. Is he going to dare pull a move into the hairpin? He is down the inside of the Alpine, and he gets so very close to that wall. The tire is practically kissing the barrier, and Ocon gets the better exit, but Watanabe is going to contest with DRS and ERS down the outside of turn 14. Can he get the grip and traction? He does. Beautiful stuff. Let's see just how close he gets to the wall. Slow-mo here. Very hard to pull a move through this corner. In fact, we've seen Watanabe earlier in this race overshoot it very hard. And oh my goodness gracious, that rear tire. There's hardly any space in between. How has he managed to pull off that move without ripping the tire off of its frame? That is an impressive car control. And gutsy too, as he squeezes Ocon onto the apex and takes the move around the outside. Now he's closing in onto Nicholas Latifi now into turn 1, and that is probably the easiest move he's pulled off all race since he slapped on those medium tires. And now he's closing on to Stroll and Vettel. The Aston Martins are the barrier between Watanabe making it into the points. He gets very close to Stroll on the exit of turns 5, and now with ERS and DRS deployed, banging tire walls with the Aston Martin as Stroll tries to close the door through the apex of turn 6. Watanabe is going to slow it down just enough, misses the apex but keeps it on track. Closing in on Sebastian Vettel now towards turn 14. He's ditched Stroll, but can he catch up to Sebastian Vettel? It's going to be hard to pass the 4-time world champion. Down the inside into turn 14, squeezes him towards the wall, and that is some good moves from Watanabe. Barreling towards turn 22, and Russell pits on this lap, so the first of the medium tire starters is pitting. Closing in on Matsushita now. He's on the hard tire. He started on the mediums. Watanabe is going to make this a very easy move though. His tires are aged, but Matsushita tries to shut the door heading into turn 7, but around the outside does Watanabe pull around his teammate and up into 8th place. Turn 22 and 23, and Leclerc and Hamilton pit on this lap, so Watanabe will surely inherit both their places through the pits. He's up into P6, and considering his front wing change, that was impressive. 22 and 23, Norris and Perez pit, so Watanabe is undoubtedly going to be pitting again. Can he stay ahead of these two drivers up into P4? And Watanabe pits on this lap, keeps it well within the lines this time. So while he didn't get a penalty on the previous lap, this is definitely going to play into his hands. And he's pulled off a very impressive recovery drive on those medium tires. But this next set of medium tires are technically going to be scrubbed in a bit. He did run medium tires during qualifying, and of course with these new mediums they're going to be scrubbed, so he's not going to have as much grip or longevity as he did on those previous tires. But he did only pull 1 lap on the mediums, so they're practically good as new, and have seen the pace he's pulled. He's into P8 already, so Watanabe is going to have a lot of room to negotiate and try to close up to Sergio Perez, who's been on those tires for about a lap or two. Watanabe around turn 23 is closing the gap, and he sets the fastest lap at the Grand Prix, and that is showing electric pace from the Japanese driver. And oh, there seems to be a reliability failure for the Haas. Is that Zhou Guanyu? Yes, it is. His engine just goes up in smoke, heading down towards through turn 5, towards turn 6, and there isn't really anywhere you can really pull over. That's kind of a flaw of this circuit. Once you're on this DRS straight, there's nowhere to look, and that's very close.
Pull down. Joe, we have to stop, slow in, we have a technical issue, slow in. Sorry Joe, we have to retire the car.
And that is very unfortunate for the Chinese driver. He's been having a hard time at Haas because the car hasn't really been representative of the pace he might have. Turn 23 we go, and Watanabe is just the fastest lap again. He was extremely rapid in the 3rd sector. Oh, and there's smoke in the pole sitter! Charles Leclerc, another DNF that makes 2 in a row as smoke billows from the Ferrari. Closing in on Carlos Sainz, and here you can just see, wait for it, there we go, the engine just goes up in smoke, and now Carlos Sainz is completely vulnerable to the charge that Lewis Hamilton is putting on, but Leclerc is going to be crestfallen. Pole position is going to do not going to do much for him as he loses a chance to get good points in this championship.
What the hell?
You can hear the rage emanating from Leclerc's voice as he knows that yet again he's retired because of reliability. Closing in on Sergio Perez now. DRS and ERS deployed down the DRS straight. Is this P6 on the cards for Watanabe? He's very far back, but we've seen him pull far back moves. Diving down the inside of Sergio Perez. How does he manage to keep the car in control? And that is an impressive move for P6. Final lap of the Grand Prix, but Perez is closing at a rate of knots. Are we going to see another dive bomb? Watanabe tries to push Perez towards the outside, but he goes deep. He underestimates the corner, and we've seen just how good his car control has been, but it's just fallen away from Watanabe, and he's lost P6 to Perez. Max Verstappen, he's taken it to the max. The streets of Singapore were not enough to quell the lion. Max Verstappen takes the Singapore Grand Prix. Watanabe, though, P7, he could have been P6, but considering that he had to replace his front wing, that is a very impressive recovery drive to finish it in the points. Pierre Gasly is your driver of the day, but Max Verstappen, the Red Bull senior driver, will surely be on top this weekend. And there's Max Verstappen. He's going to take those wins. Championship may be over, but every win at the end is what counts. Valtteri Bottas takes P2 in the race, ahead of Lewis Hamilton, crucially his closest rival, so he will finish ahead, and Matsushita makes it another point-scoring race finish for Toyota Racing. That's 2 points for the Japanese driver, but Watanabe at P7, he would have gotten, and he was absolutely rapid at some points on this track. George Russell, very respectable position, P14 in the Williams. However, things aren't going to be the same for Valtteri Bottas. 31 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton, and Carlos Sainz passes Daniel Ricciardo in the championship order. So this is going to be very, very impressive for him. And as Antonio Giovinazzi passes Matsushita as well, and nothing changes as Mercedes extends their lead in the constructors to the rest of the field, trying to make it 10 straight constructors championships in a row. And that's the race. The champagne spraying. The drivers will need the coolness of the liquid as we head to the streets of Austin for the US Grand Prix next time.